Last season, on average, Manchester United faced 17.37 shots on their goal in every single Premier League game, and the defence hasn't exactly been watertight at the start of this season either. However, in the second half of the match against Southampton, United faced 0 shots, and were not tested once from a defensive point of view. So the question is, did Ten Hag actually stumble upon the defensive solution? Now, of course, we have already discussed some of the defensive work from this match in our video at the weekend. Make sure to go and check that out, by the way. But the question is, what was the change for United? Now, in the video at the weekend, I discussed how in the second half in particular, United shifted shape from a 1-1 sort of shape with Bruno Fernandes and Xerxes in the first half to more of a front two in the second half. That helped us to be more aggressive and to get pressure on the ball higher up the pitch. However, we have seen that before from United. We've seen the 4-2-4 shape with Xerxes and Bruno Fernandes or Mason Mount and Bruno Fernandes. So why was it different against Southampton? Well, for me, there was two main reasons. One reason was because our defensive line was higher and tighter with the rest of our team. The other reason why I believe the front two worked better in this game was because of the positioning of our wingers, not just in the high press, but also in the mid-block as well. Because I would view the second half at the weekend as more of a 4-4-2 as opposed to a 4-2-4. And for me, that was the difference maker and made us much more defensively sound. So, first things first, why is the deeper positioning of the wingers making the Manchester United press a little bit better, but also the mid-block better as well? Well, for me, there are three main reasons ultimately. Reason one is because the Manchester United wingers are already in a deeper position. It means they're not tracking back into a deeper position. They are already there. So defensively, they are having to cover less ground, do less work, which means when they do work, they can be more intense. And a big thing for me is the space that we are reducing behind our wingers and outside of our midfielders. You see, what we have seen at times early in the season is that when Manchester United don't quite get the press right, it is quite easy to play a pass into the central midfielder in here, and then the fullbacks, because our wingers have been quite high, the opposition fullbacks can get off the back of our wingers and move into this position here. This sort of round the corner pass has really been hurting Manchester United on both sides of the pitch. However, the second we move our two wingers just a little bit deeper, more in line with our two central midfielders, it removes that passing option. As the ball goes in here, that pass is now no longer on. And once again, as the ball goes in here, the pass forward is no longer on. So instantly, our wingers being a little bit deeper makes life simpler. We are covering the space a little bit better. The other easier thing here as well, though, is that it removes that sort of hybrid pressing role from our two wingers. Now again, what we are used to seeing is our wingers being put into situations where they are covering between a centre-back and also a full-back. And that can make it a little bit difficult to understand. Even one of the best pressing sides in the world in Arsenal had a problem with this at the weekend. Bukayo Saka actually struggled at times in a sort of hybrid pressing role. That shows how difficult it is, because for me, he is one of the best at it. What we saw in the second half, once again from United, was a almost simplification of what United were doing. Because suddenly, Ahmad, rather than covering two players here, and Rashford having the same on this side, instead of that, they are now just picking up one player each. That is much, much simpler. And then, the other benefit as well, is that if these two players are deeper, their roles are simpler, it is much easier to connect and press as a cohesive team. And in particular, our two wingers were more connected to our two midfielders. There were not these spaces outside of the midfield that we have seen in the early weeks. So often we see that it is really easy to drag these United midfielders out wide. Because our wingers were closer, that didn't happen. And we saw plenty of examples of the positives of this. So we'll start off with the following of the fullback from our wingers in this game. And we're going to look through all of this using Once Video Analyzer, an incredible video analysis software. I use it in pretty much all my videos and streams. Make sure to check it out. There will be a link in the description down below. Seriously, go check it out. It's so good and it really helps with these videos. And it allows us to select Marcus Rashford up here, close to the Southampton fullback. And also, just keep an eye on Christian Eriksen as well. But realistically, the important thing is Marcus Rashford's positioning, and the fact that he is very much with that fullback. Now, of course, Manchester United are not in a pressing phase here. It is more of the block phase. But still, the point is important here. Because what you'll notice is that as this ball keeps moving from Southampton, they keep working the ball from the back. Marcus Rashford's role is very obvious. He is constantly following this fullback. Now, we actually end up with Diogo Dalot pressing all the way on the halfway line. But if we look at Marcus Rashford, he is actually still back here following this man. Straight away, you can see what Rashford's job is. He is meant to follow the fullback. And we also saw this a little bit higher up the pitch as well. Manchester United are pressing here. Marcus Rashford has gone towards the fullback. That is clearly his man. None of this hybrid nonsense where he's covering the centre-back as well. He is very much after the fullback. Now on this occasion he doesn't quite get close enough and Southampton play the ball from the back. However, because Rashford has a simple job, just track that one man, it makes his life a lot easier. He knows that simply, as the Southampton player moves forward, Marcus Rashford simply has to follow him. And again, he follows him into a deeper position. Again, Diogo Dalot actually ends up higher up the pitch than Marcus Rashford. So straight away, this is the benefit for our two wingers. They are given an easier job, it's much simpler to understand, you've just got to track the guy. Now the other positive that we spoke about was the removal of the bounce pass in this shape, and you can see it here. This to me very much looks like a 4-4-2 as opposed to a 4-2-4. I would say our wingers are more connected with our midfield than what they are our front two. And that's important for Manchester United. Because what we have seen early in the season is that Ahmad would be a little bit higher over here, and Marcus Rashford could also be a little bit higher up here as well. Now this causes a problem, because it means what we are seeing a lot of in the opening weeks of the season is this sort of passing move. A pass from the centre-back into the central midfielder, who then turns the ball round the corner to the full-back because our wingers are caught higher. Whereas now, because our wingers are a little bit deeper, you can see Ahmad deeper on this side and Marcus Rashford on the left as well, that pass is much more difficult for this Southampton player, because chances are Ahmad is going to get across and intercept it. So again, we can see the advantage of this here. It removes the bounce pass threat for the opposition. Because our two wingers are a little bit deeper, again, we are more connected as a pressing team. There is less space out wide of our shape, and that's crucial because that's where United have been really hurt this season. If you actually go to looking at the Manchester United squad, the players we have in the starting 11, the last thing you want is for this team to get stretched. Because when this team gets stretched, let's say Rashford gets caught high, so a midfielder has to come over. The second you stretch the pitch for this team, we quite simply don't have the personnel to succeed there. Kobbie Mainoo is not someone who can regularly cover 30 yards, moving out wide to kind of close down these players. Christian Eriksen isn't a player who can play in this role. Casemiro can't do it. Mason Mount, Collier, Ugarte are more suited to it, but again it doesn't really suit any player in the world to be covering these large distances, so it works much better with our wingers a little bit deeper, it protects us outside. Now the next positive of this shift in shape, more to the 4-4-2 as opposed to what we saw in the first half, was again, it simplifies the game. It is pretty obvious for Manchester United here that they are going man for man. Everyone has their clear player that they are supposed to pick up. Now you will notice Christian Eriksen here is a little bit deeper, and some people will therefore say he's not in a man-to-man press, but I actually still think he is. I think there is a misconception when we talk about a man-to-man press. You see, some people will say, in order to be man-to-man, let's say the goalkeeper's got the ball, Eriksen has to be touch tight here to be classed as a man-to-man system, and Kobbie has to be doing the same. In my opinion, that's not the case. They don't have to be touch tight. You can be a few yards away. You just got to be close enough to be able to affect the ball should you need to. But also, the ideal thing about this sort of system is that actually by not being touch tight, you can also cover the other way as well. And again, we saw the benefit of that in this game, because Christian Eriksen doesn't go all the way high. If he needed to, you know, if Southampton were to play the ball out down the back and went towards this side, Eriksen could have locked on to that central midfielder. We could have locked on and pressed. But actually, Southampton go long. And this is where it's useful to have Eriksen in the in-between position, because he can also go backwards. He can do the job going the other way. And as this ball's going to drop in midfield, Eriksen can be there. You can see it again here. United are man-to-man. The system, for me, is simplified. It is obvious who you have to pick up. These two forwards are picking up the two centre-backs, and then we've got the next line of four covering those four players. And you will notice Eriksen on this occasion has taken the decision to be a little bit closer. Again, he's not touch tight, but he is close enough that he can affect the play. Now if you picture someone like Manuel Ugarte playing this role, shifting between the two positions, that could be the dream situation for Manchester United, and could take the defensive level, ultimately, up a notch. And again, it's this man-to-man system that really helps. I think all in all, with this sort of tweak in pressing structure, it just feels that the United players are actually pressing as a team, rather than 3 players going after 4 or 5 opposition players. It feels like 9 times out of 10, we have someone backing us up. You know, if Ahmad is going on the press, Bruno's going to be there with him. Eriksen and Mazraoui will be there as well. Or the ball might come down this side. But you know Xerxes is going to be there with Marcus Rashford. And as a team, we are going to press. Again, the other big thing for me is that our midfield feels more connected. Again, what we've seen is large spaces early in the season in these areas. This new shape just addresses that. You can see these spaces aren't outside the midfield, So when the ball does eventually get worked wide, because we're in more of a 4-4-2, our players can stay connected. This time it's Kobbie Mainoo and Marcus Rashford. They can stay connected with each other. There is not a large gap opening up between them, which means we just pick up one man each. Instead of Kobbie Mainoo being dragged out to the byline, to the touchline, sorry, we just pick a player up each. We're man to man, we're aggressive in these areas. Once again, you can see United have effectively locked this to one side of the pitch. And again, you can make it a small-sided game, win your duels, counter-attack from there. But ultimately, the most important thing is that our midfielders are not being dragged out of position. We are all connected. Now, something that you eagle-eyed viewers may have noticed while we have been going through all of those clips talking about the connecting of the press and the positioning of the wingers is the centre-backs. Those that were really paying attention and would have seen something from our centre-backs. Because not only is the rest of the team man-to-man, look at our two central defenders over here as well. We've got De Ligt actually really tight on this occasion with his player over here. And then a little bit further over, we've got Lisandro Martinez. Now again, Licha of course isn't touch tight, but that doesn't mean he's man-to-man. He is clearly still picking up this player. And this was huge for the Manchester United press. We can see it in this situation here as well. Lisandro Martinez is being aggressive, backing up the Manchester United press. None of this retreating back towards the edge of our own penalty area. That's not happening here. We're getting on the front foot. We're connecting. And that's because in this lineup, Ten Hag trusts both of our centre-backs man-to-man. This really helped Lisandro Martinez. It saw a massive increase in his performance level from what we've seen early in the season. And I thought De Ligt had a really good game as well. So has Erik Ten Hag fixed the press? Not quite. He's taken large steps. He's massively improved the pressing system in the second half here. However, we have seen that before. We have seen one-off matches or 30-minute spells where United press well. The ultimate test now for Erik Ten Hag is to have the bottle to keep doing it. To do it in the Carabao Cup against Barnsley, in the Premier League against Palace, and in the Europa League as well. But also, when we get there, the big games. Can you do this against the likes of Spurs, perhaps a Liverpool, an Arsenal, a Manchester City? That will be the true test of whether Erik Ten Hag really feels that he has fixed our pressing structure. Like I've said already, I think someone like Ugarte coming in will improve it. All in all, Ten Hag got it really right in that second half, and defensively, it's up there for me with the best that we've looked in a while. I was really impressed with the defensive structure, which is why I want to do this extra video on it, to give you guys a little bit of extra information. It's all about the team actually being a team, together, whether that's high, whether it's low, whether it's wide, whether it's narrow. They're all doing it together, and that is key for Erik Ten Hag moving forward. He has to keep doing that. There is a big focus now on keeping players fit, so you can keep doing this. That's going to be a big challenge. But if we can, United might, just might, have found a sort of defensive solution here, which would be huge for us. That's my opinion. Let me know yours in the comments down below. But apart from that, we are finished for today. So thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed it. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.